So I'll just move further for the part 2. uh, we would like to now make the uh, proper proof maybe. So let's see. For the first part, what we have to do is we have to show that E is open. All right. Now let me again recall what was the set E. I'll just write it over here for our reference. X belongs to R such that f of x plus h is bigger than fx for some h positive. That is my E. Okay. Now to show E is open, I would like to construct some, say, open subset such that its inverse image will be E, or at least some open set which will help me in proving E is open. So let's see what that set is going to be. So I'm just looking at a subset of E, I can say E suffix h. So I'm considering a new subset, I mean new set E, EH. What is it? It is all those real numbers for which, so EH is all those x in R such that f of x plus h is bigger than fx. Right? Now, at least can I, first of all, can you observe some relationship between E and EH? Like E and EH, can you, some containment do you have already? For H positive, yeah, by the way. For every H positive, I am considering EH. So do you know, do you have any containment between E and E suffix H for any H positive? Or there is no relation? Okay.
EH is contained in A.
Okay, Aman is saying EH is contained in E, and that's the point that one can easily observe, because it's the same condition, you know. So I'm just looking at all those points which satisfy this, but then this means x has to go in E, because there is some H positive such that f of x plus h is bigger than fx. So EH is certainly inside E for every H greater than 0. That's a quick observation. All right. In fact, can you say something more than this? That is, I want equal to. So can you express E in terms of EH? Can you guess that?
So
Hmm.
it's like union of H belongs to R.
Okay, okay, okay. So let me observe or disclose some relationship. E, I would like to write it as over, not equal to, H greater than 0, EH. Do you, I mean, can I take this? I want to prove it. I mean, one has to prove this. Now, what I would suggest is don't disclose anything. See whether you can write a proof for a justification, maybe 2-3 line justification for the statement that I have made just now.
Sir, if we let h tend to infinity, then will E be equal to E infinity?
E infinity, what is that, by the way? H tend to infinity you are letting, that's okay. But what are you going to achieve by that?
I think, like,
Mhm.
I imagined visually, I
Mhm.
don't know if I'm wrong, but if we let h get bigger and bigger, the set EH will tend towards E.
That is not necessarily.
What will happen if H is bigger? What will happen to EH? If H1 is bigger than H2, what can you say about EH1 and EH2?
EH1 will be contained in EH2.
So it becomes smaller and smaller.
Oh, so yeah, you're right. I just thought the shadows became bigger and bigger. But no.
Continuity will say that. Of course, you need continuity for that, but that will happen. Intermediate value,
Thank you.
whatever that you call it.
Yeah. So, yeah, all right. So, do you? I mean, is this?
See,
yeah, please.
Now,
Sir,
one
please.
thing, there is nothing called E infinity. Okay. See, here there are two sets. E is on one side, you know the definition which is given above that. The first part he has given.
Yeah.
EH definition is given here.
Correct.
He's saying two sets are equal. How do you do? That's all. Think it very simple terms. In a very simple language. So you have two sets. E defined in the first part, you may have it. And here is union of a collection, of course, EH. And the definition of EH is here. And he says E is equal to union of EH. How do you say? That's all. Think in that way. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm not doing it. I feel you should be able to do it. So I'm just taking it. It's just a trivial exercise. When you start working, you will get it. So so now what our job is now is I will try to show this EH. Each of these EH are open sets. Now how do I do that? So look at EH carefully, and now so it's there here. Now how do I handle? How do I show that this EH is open? I'll write it again. X belongs to R, right? Such that f of x plus h, may I write it like this, minus f of x greater than 0. Okay, all those x which satisfy this condition. Okay, now what do I do? Will I be able to express this as some G inverse of something where this G is continuous and this fellow is open set? If I could do this, then I am done. EH will be open set by our earlier statement that inverse image of an open set under a continuous function is open. So I want to now construct some G such that this can be expressed, this set can be expressed as inverse image of something under G. Now it's very much there in front of you. What G you would like to take? Yeah. If someone has guessed, you can click on yes. You can guess something about G. Right. Maybe somebody can unmute and speak also, no problem right now. Can you tell me some G such that
somebody who says yes?
Let me.
If there is anybody who is.
Let me see the list.
Yes, Anirban. Anirban?
Yes, sir. We can take F.
Yeah.
We can take F as G.
Acha, F itself. Okay, but so okay. So what would you do then? What kind of set will you give if I want to take just F?
If it is empty, then we are done. If EH is empty, if not, I have to think.
Right. See, it is f of x plus h minus fx. So that h is playing some role there. So
okay, then we can take G to be this only.
Need to be this only. You can take, right? So what you can actually do is say maybe to be more.
You can on the line you draw fx and you plot fx plus h. Okay.
Right.
Which is on the right side. Because
Something
fx
like
plus h minus fx is, that is fx.
correct.
Yeah, there it is.
Somewhere
Fx
here
plus
you have f of x plus h.
Yes.
Right.
That's on the right side. Now, now can you say that something close to that also will be greater than fx? That is the question. It's very simple, right? See, the
Yes,
moment
sir.
anything is greater than what is that? X such that fx plus h is greater than fx.
Ahead of
F.
Right.
So can you find something around x that will also have that property? H is fixed, by the way, don't forget.
H is fixed.
Let them think. Afterwards, you can give.
Yeah. Maybe a couple of minutes they can think on it.
Yes. And there's a lot of gap there, no? Between fx and fx plus h. If your x varies anywhere there, you will see. There means, I mean, you have to be careful.
Yeah.
Continuity. Some small interval of around fx plus h and then something around fx, so that everything is on the right side. Now I think they should answer. Okay.
So actually, there is one question from one participant that what are the assumptions on F?
Continuity.
Continuity.
I wrote
for this.
I wrote to him, sir.
Okay.
I already wrote to in the chat itself. I wrote to him.
Take a small interval like around fx plus h, some epsilon neighborhood.
Right.
What will you get? Of course, you have to choose epsilon very small. I mean, it should not encroach fx.
Yeah, one has to avoid this. Maybe something.
Avoid this. Not only that, avoid that little space also. Yes. So that is your epsilon. Then what do you know? Let students say something.
If f of x plus h is greater than 0, then that function will be also greater than 0 around some interval of f of x.
That's exactly the answer is. But then you have to add h to it. Don't forget that part. Okay.
Yes.
H is important. H is fixed. You don't have freedom for h, so you have to be careful. Yeah.
Right. So to be,
I think you can answer.
Yeah.
It's okay. People have thought. That
Right. That's good. Yeah. So I mean, what you simply can do is look at the map. Say maybe x going to x plus h kind of, which is fixed. So this is one map you have, and then the another is the difference. Okay. So maybe I can call this as say some function h. Okay, which takes x to x plus h. No, I can't call it. Say h1 is my function which takes x to x plus h for a fixed h. H is fixed now, fixed real number. Now, so that means h1x I have, which maps x to x plus h. And then what will be my function that I can look at? I can look at g of x as simply say f of h1 minus f. Do you see that this is same as this? F composite h1 minus f acting on x. So this is my gx. Now first thing is this g continuous? First of all, do you observe that g becomes continuous?
what you say is you can do globally also. This is exactly the best proof. Anyway, go ahead. I'll tell you my suggestion later.
Okay,
Complete this.
Yeah. And look at, so now you are talking about greater than 0. So it is like I'm going to have the set under consideration is 0 to infinity, simply. So if I take G as this, then G inverse of open 0 infinity will be my EH. And you are done. So because this is open interval, G is continuous. So EH will be an open set. Is this okay? Sir, Jensen sir, you would like to add?
No, nothing. In fact, right at the beginning, you take G from R cross R to R. G x comma y is equal to, what you said is almost the same, but you can do it globally. Say G x comma y is equal to Fy minus Fx.
Okay, yes.
Okay, so this is certainly continuous because it's a difference of two continuous function with the projection. So whatever that you call, everything is there. So it's continuous.
Right. Yes.
And then G inverse of 0 infinity you take as you did there and intersect with the above diagonal. That's exactly the set E. And no, that is not the set. That is open. Its projection to the x coordinate is exactly your E. Projection is an open map, so it's done. I mean, of course, I'm looking at it from topological point of view.
Correct. Right.
Okay. Anyway, you go ahead with your proof because don't complicate them. They will.
No problem. So this is done. So finally, I hope it's clear why E is open. Now moving. So by the way, finally, let me still make the statement that EH is open. Right now, I have got EH open for every H greater than 0, and then E is just the union of open sets. So we know union of open sets is open, and hence E becomes open set. Okay, so that's about the first part of the proof. Now I want to develop the second part. Second part essentially talks about f of ak equal to f of bk whenever ak bk is of finite length. So let me take ak bk of finite length. Okay, length. So this is what I'm taking. And then question is f of ak equal to f of bk, how to deal with that? The first observation is, since ak doesn't belong to E, what we do have is f of bk is smaller than f of ak. This is the first observation that I'm having, that f of bk must be smaller than f of less or equal to, of course, f. Now, if possible, or assume f of bk is less than f of ak, and we would like to get some contradiction. So what I would do is look at the geometry. So you have ak smaller than bk, but on the graph f of bk is smaller than f of ak is what we are assuming. Okay. So first strategy is, first step is, between these two, I will pick up somebody. So what is the natural choice? It can be like a kind of midpoint of these two. Let me call it as Z. So I'm just saying, let's take some Z, which is f of ak plus f of bk by 2. Okay. And now what obviously I am going to apply is, yes, what should I apply now? Someone?
There exists some point between AK and BK whose image will be Z.
Right. So I would like to apply intermediate value theorem. There exists some C between AK and BK, right? such that its image f of c is this fellow z. So there is somebody. Now point is, this c need not be unique. There can be many such c's, point c, that are there for which f of c may be equal to z, because I may have this kind of fluctuation. So I don't know. IVP guarantees one such c, but there can be many. So what I would like to do is select the farthest such point C, means farthest from AK. All right. So I am going to say that C is the last after which there is no one with such a property. This is okay? Or you have a question on this?
Sir, what if it became constant only? Like,
sorry?
Like, sir, it will become constant on that interval. Like, only that.
Who will become constant?
Like, sir, how can we say farthest C will be there?
See, truly speaking, I may have fluctuations, and so I may have more than one such C which satisfy this condition. So I am saying that take the largest one amongst all those possible C's. All right. So I'm just selecting the one which is farthest from AK. All right. Such a C I'm picking up.
No, Mandar, I think you can say, you take the inverse image of singleton Z. So that will be a closed set.
Correct.
And,
right.
Because it's bounded.
That's what I was expecting, that they should ask why such a C will exist. I mean, Shamik, thanks.
Sorry. Yeah,
no problem. So basically what you need means, see, when I say f of c equal to z and there are many such C's that might be there, I even don't know whether there are finitely many or infinitely many. I do not know. So when I'm saying that select, I should guarantee that such a C exists. Okay, that is the question. In fact, I was expecting that what is the guarantee? Select karna hai to existence ka guarantee kya hai? Then, as Shamik sir said rightly, that you look at this as you collect all such C's basically for which f of c is z. Look at such a set. So I'm talking about all C in AKBK such that f of c is z. Look at this set. All right. And now point is like I'm interested in something like supremum of this. And I want to call it as say C. So maybe C1. Okay. Question is, what is the guarantee that such a C will exist? Because this may turn out to be BK itself. Okay. So it may not be exist in the sense, it may not be inside BK, AKBK. So I want you to justify that such a thing is possible, and that, as sir pointed out, you look at this set as the inverse image of singleton. It's a closed set, and so it will contain, certainly it will contain its this one supremum, and hence such a choice of C is possible. So you can select such a C. There is no problem. All right. So once such C is selected, so you have some C such that after that there is nobody whose image is Z. Such a C now we have selected. All right. Now, what I know is I need to go to the next page. Let me try to go to the next page. So what I'll do now is, so C is somebody who is there in AKBK. Okay. So what does this mean? That it's a part of E. This means there is somebody D which is bigger than C such that f of D is bigger than f of C by definition of set E. Because C is in E, there is someone larger than C whose image is larger than f of C, image of C. Okay. Now you see the diagram. What is the situation? I'll plot the situation. So I have AK, I have somewhere C, I have BK. I have f of BK. Okay. I have somewhere, I have Z in between, which is f of C. And I have here f of AK. All right. Now, question is, so this is f of C, by the way. Now, question is, I mean, what can you say about this point D? I want to say something about this point D. So, what can you say about that? So, look at the relationship. You have f of BK, then it is less than f of C. I'm just writing it from the picture itself, f of C. And f of C here, I got f of D bigger than f of C. Okay, so f of BK is less than f of D, is what I know. F of BK so is less than f of D, right? So what can you say about D and BK? Now this is the image of D is larger than image of BK. Now can this D be bigger than BK? D यहाँ पर हो सकता है क्या? Can this D lie over here, or D should lie to the left of BK? What? Can you say something about the position of D? Yes?
Sir, sorry, but how are we getting f of BK is less than f of C? Will you please say again?
F of BK, see, what is this Z? F of C is Z. Now, what is this Z? It is the arithmetic mean of f of AK and f of BK. So it lies between these two. So f of BK is less than Z is what we wrote in the. See, this Z, you know, is somebody which is
Yes, sir, got it.
Midpoint, right? Good, no problem. So I have this, and now if D would have been larger than BK, then BK has to fall inside E. You understand? But that cannot happen. I already know that the open interval is there. So BK is not a member of E. So I will say as BK doesn't belong to E, comma, we must have what? D has to be less than BK. D cannot be bigger, because if it is bigger than BK, then the condition will get satisfied. F of D is bigger than f of BK is already there. So BK has to then go inside E, but that's not the case. Hence, we must have D less than BK. So I will plot D at a proper place. So let us plot it over here somewhere. D, observe it's bigger than C and less than BK. And f of D is bigger than f of BK. So f of D is in fact bigger than f of C also. So somewhere here or more. Now what? Now it's almost done, because if you observe, f of BK is here, f of D is here. So look at these two objects. And this Z is again lying between f of BK and f of D. Okay. So between D and BK, there has to be, by again intermediate value property, there has to be some C1 whose image will be Z. Do you get my point? So I have D less than BK, f of BK less than f of D. Hence, by intermediate value property, again, IVT, there must exist some C1 between D and BK, such that such that, just a minute, f of c1 is also z, means which is f of c. Understand? But what is the problem now? Have I got any contradiction finally? Because what is this c1? You can see on the picture as well that c1 is certainly greater than c, because d is bigger than c and c1 is bigger than d further. So this is a contradiction, as c is the farthest point such that f of c is z. All right, and that provides us the contradiction. So what I assumed is wrong. What did we assume? We assumed that f of ak is bigger than f of bk. It cannot happen. So thus what we must have is f of ak and f of bk to be equal. Okay, right. So this is the proof. In fact, what I would suggest to you all is, please go through the whole proof. I'll give you.
Sir, you just said, like, you have assumed C to be the farthest such point such that f of c equal to z. Sir, if we assume this thing, then can't we say just by looking the graph that it can't be possible? Like, the contradiction still is there?
Yeah, actually, see, Arshi, right? It's true. From by looking at the graph, you can certainly make out that it is not possible to happen, this to happen. But we can't, means one needs a justified proof to support our feelings. So,
yes, basically, it is the support to our contradiction. Like, we are saying correctly.
Right. Correct.
Okay, sir. Okay,
Very good. So from graph, one can very much observe. You can try that, and that is problematic. It cannot arise. Such a situation cannot arise. Very good.
Looking at graph and making conclusions are purely intuitive. But you need an analytic argument to conclude.
Finally conclude.
It's done.
Sir, can you explain again that why such a C exists, that supremum?
Okay, I'll go back. So what is that C? That C is a supremum of all such C1s for which f of C1 is said. Right? So you can look at it in this way. There are different ways to handle this. So can I say that there exists some sequence Cn, okay, so if I call this as set A, so all such C's that I'm considering, I'm calling it as set A. So look at, so if C is the supremum, there always exists a sequence Cn in A such that Cn converges to C. Can we say this? And now f is continuous, so f of Cn must converge to f of C. Okay, but what is f of Cn? Cn is a sequence in A. So for each of these Cn's, f of Cn must be Z. So this f of Cn as a sequence, it's a constant sequence Z. So it converges to f of C. So I mean, ideally, f of C has to be Z then.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Got it? Right. Okay. Right. Okay, I think this is the end of my second part of the